Hey guys, Kevin here, and in this video we are going to talk about 10 small things that give me an advantage when I'm looking for work. So for this video we're now talking about part 4. So I already did part 1, 2, and 3. So if you want a quick recap, the first part 1 is I can speak in English. Part 2 is I read every day. Part 3 is I spent only 1 year in college. And so this video is all about part 4. And part 4 is I know how to write. So when I started, I really had bad communication skills. And I usually talk without thinking, and I offend a lot of people when I talk. So, and also, sometimes it takes me a long time to process my thoughts. And I know, right? You wouldn't believe me, but that's my thing. Sometimes it takes me forever to think of an answer to a very simple question because I haven't really thought about it. So, if I need to ask if you need to ask me a question, sometimes it's gonna take me a while to get a good answer. Sometimes I'll give you a very short answer or a very incomplete answer, but usually the best answers, if you want to know my real answer, you need to give me a few days to think about it. Because if I'm not actively thinking about that question, I won't be able to give you a good answer. And that's just how it is. So, and some of you might not believe me, but that's the thing. I'm weak in this area, and there are a lot of ideas in my head, a lot of plans, a lot of things that I'm trying to do. So how I organize it is I put everything on paper, or I type it on my phone. I On my computer I have text files. I try to use Evernote, and the problem with Evernote is it has a lot of memory. So my Evernote has like 9,000 notes. My email has 18,000 emails. Some of those emails are from me that I sent to myself. So, and then I have a full box of paper that of my ideas and the things that I'm thinking about. I just write things down. So now, and because I've learned this very early. So for example, take out your phone, and then you go to your messages. And then when you're on your messages, try reading it like this. You can't, right? It's too difficult. The reason for that is that when you are thinking about a problem, you're thinking about something that you want to solve. If you're doing the thinking in your head, it's going to be very difficult. It's kind of like thinking of how to reply when you're reading a message like this, like the phone's close to your face. But if you give it more thought, if you put your phone in a better view, like this far, you can read it, you can think, you can write your answer. And that's kind of how it is for problems. If I have difficulty thinking about a problem, if I need a fast answer, if I need a fast solution to a complex problem, I need to put that on paper. So I'll be able to think about how to solve it, how to approach it. Because there's more than one way to solve a problem, right? So you have to think about that. And that's what I do when I write. I put the problems on paper, alright? So how does this apply to getting hired in a call center? How does this apply to getting hired in your dream job? So, for example, why should I hire you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the advantages of hiring you over the other applicants? What would be your contribution to our company? What is your 5-year plan? What is your 10-year plan? Right? What would it take for you to leave the company? How do you answer those questions? First off, it's gonna be very inefficient, very time consuming for you to answer that question in your head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down these questions, and then I'm gonna write the possible answers, like things I'm thinking about. Even if you have no plans of telling the interviewer that, just write it down and think of an answer based on that. Maybe you're saying something stupid. I want to go abroad in a couple of years, right? But I need this job so I can pay for my going to abroad processing fee. I want to be a nurse actually instead of a call center agent because my mom sent me to school as a nurse. I want to see, I want to change diapers or do something like that. Write it down, write it on your paper, and then compose your answer based on that. So you'll have a proper answer instead of like, okay, can you tell me why I should hire you? Like the interviewer is gonna ask you, why? So why should we hire you? And you're like, I don't know. All right, you can't do that. So write it down, and get used to writing things down. Write things down because that's a very big advantage. Most people do not write things. Most people do not even have a pen, diba? Most people, yeah, they don't have a pen, they don't have paper, they've lost their ability to write after they graduated from college. And they're stupid as fuck, right? They're stupid as fuck. You can't really, they're not very dependable. They try to use their brain for everything. Kala mo, kaya i-mental. But life isn't a basic math problem. Life is a complex problem with lots of different situations, with the problems are always changing. Every time you solve an easy problem, you get a bigger problem, and it's a process that goes on and on and on, and it gets harder and harder and harder, and hindi mo pwedeng i-mental lang lahat. Kasi everyone who's trying to mentally solve difficult problems are just bullshitting, you know. But you can pretend that you're mentally solving it. Just solve it on paper first, and then share the problem. Because that's what I do. All these lessons, I wrote it down already. So I'm just reading it here. I'm just sharing my input, sharing my story. And obviously, you don't go to an interview with a laptop, right? But you can go to an interview with a small notebook and then read your answers before your name gets called. Read your answers on your commute before you get to that interview. Okay? So that's the idea. That's the trick. That's my cheat. And that's how I do it. That's why I get hired after 16 times. Right? And when I get hired, I don't get hired at the first company that wants to hire me. I get hired at the very best company that I can get. And that is the advantage. That allows me to ask for a higher salary. That gives me the ability to do better with my time, right? I don't just work for a low pay. I get the best that I can get, right? So what else can you write? I look for cool lessons that I can share. I look for my interviewers are unforgettable because my interviewer learns something from me. So I usually teach my interviewer something that I recently learned. So yeah, whenever I go to an interview, I try to teach the interviewer something new, something that I'm learning. And that helps me build rapport. Every time I go to the interviewer, my interviewer hopes that I'm gonna get hired. The person doing the initial interview, they're gonna hope that I get hired because they like me. And how do I get them to like me? I just share good stories. I share stories about things that I'm learning. And some people might find that interesting, and we have a conversation, and we spend a lot of time talking about that. We spend a lot of time talking about personal stuff. Sometimes the interviewer asks me for love advice or just advice with how to deal with their finances and so on. So that's the thing. Give it more thought. You know, write things down. There are a lot of interesting things if you write things down. So make that a practice. I write. I don't just write essays and lessons for the website. I write everything. Everything I want to improve in my life. Every problem that I have, I write it down. Things I want to remember, I write it down. Things I want to forget, I write that down too. So kung sawi ka sa pag-ibig, may problema ka sa buhay mo, write it down. If you can't let it go, write it down. Put it on that paper. Keep your problems on paper. So it's not there. It's not in your head. It's not in your heart. It's on paper. It's on that piece of paper. Maybe you have a notebook. All my problems. Put the words all my problems into the title and just write all your problems there. And then yung problems that if you solve will give you a better life, go back to that notebook, get that problem and solve it. So you have that notebook. Fix it. And then if you can if that problem, solving that problem won't really help you, you can just keep the problem there. Keep your problems trapped on paper. That's one of the best problem solving techniques. So yeah, write down your plans, write down budgets, write down your expenses. And then if I end up writing a plan that looks good on paper, I'll test it out in real life, and when I'm done, I write down the results. If it's a good result, if it's a bad result, I write it down. For example, I wrote down on my notebook way back, compliment your interviewer about the kind of phone that they're using, or compliment the interviewer about something that you saw in their office, and it turns out that that was a good idea. Some things that I complimented did not end up well. So one time I complimented the interviewer's shoes and the interviewer was a girl. So it didn't look good for me because I'm a guy and I'm complimenting shoes. And parang siguro naisip niya bakla ako or I'm hitting on her or something like that. So that didn't end up well. So I don't compliment shoes. I just compliment phones, or if they have a toy or they have something that looks interesting for me, we just talk about that. So that's how it is. I figure out everything on paper. Okay, so yeah, that's it. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed or learned something from this video, help me out, help me reach more people. Hit like, share, subscribe, share this to someone who needs help in getting hired or someone who you believe in. Help someone that you want to help. And thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.